Hi everyone! Welcome to Fluff Recipes. I'm Mandy. Today we're getting down to basics. How to cook rice perfectly. I'm going to share two foolproof methods that work for long, medium, and short grain white rice. Believe it or not, these two methods are just as easy as using a rice cooker. You just need to remember a couple of key points and your rice will come out light, fluffy, and tender every single time. The first method is cooking the rice on the stove. You need to find the correct cookware. I recommend using a stainless steel or an aluminum pot. With or without the non-stick coating, both will work. I'm not saying that cast iron and ceramic cookwares cannot make rice. You can get good results if you know how to control the heat and the timing, because these materials respond to heat changes slowly, which is a bit difficult for beginners. The appropriate size of the pot should be 4 to 6 times of the volume of the rice that you're going to cook. For example, if you're making 2 cups of rice, then the pot size should be 2 to 3 liters in volume. Don't use a drying pot to make small amount of rice because water evaporates faster in a bigger pot. Next step is to rinse the rice, which will wash off the impurities and the excess starch. A lot of recipes highlight that you should rinse until the water becomes clear. Just to clarify, the water will be less and less cloudy, but it will never be completely clear. It is good to wash off the excess starch when you are going to use the rice to make fried rice. Other than that, you just need to rinse the rice a few times and the water does not need to be clear. Here comes the first key point, rice to water ratio, which is different to everybody because it depends on the types of rice, the stove, the cookware, and your preference. Even altitude matters. For beginners, I recommend draining the rice completely by using a sieve so you don't mess up the ratio. Once you get used to making the rice, you can skip the draining, just add water directly and eyeball the amount by feeling. In general, for every cup of rice, you will need 1.5 cups of water. Feel free to swap in some stock for more flavors. If you tried this ratio and you think it's too hard or too soft, you can always adjust the water amount next time until the rice comes out perfect for you. Then you remember this ratio forever. Okay? At this point, you can transfer everything into a rice cooker, which is a machine that knows when to turn the heat to low and when to turn off the heat. To cook the rice over the stove, all you need to do is to simulate what the rice cooker does. Let's turn the heat to high and bring this to a simmer or a light boil. This will just take a few minutes. Don't go away because you're gonna forget the time and it will overflow. Now I can see the pot starts bubbling on the edge. Put on the lid, let's turn the heat to low and keep cooking the rice. The second key point is to remember the cooking time, which is also different depending on the types of rice and your preference. In general, for every cup of rice, you need to cook it on low heat for 16 minutes. For every extra cup of rice, add 2 more minutes. Start counting the time after the pot comes to a simmer. By following my timing, the rice will be perfectly cooked and not burned at all at the bottom. But if you do want to form a crispy layer at the bottom, you cook it for 20 more minutes in addition. Another note here, do not open the lid and stir the rice. Lifting up the lid will cause the steam to escape, which leads to undercooked rice. Stirring the rice will break up the grains, which creates excess starch, and you will end up with gummy rice. I am cooking 2 cups of rice, so this needs 18 minutes. The benefit of using a glass lid is that You can see through what's going on in there. All the water is gone. There's no bubbling effect anymore. That is the sign that tells you the rice is done cooking. Turn off the heat, and here comes the most important step, fluffing the rice. People always forget to do this. It redistributes the moisture and makes the rice tender instead of gummy. Let me show you a comparison. If you don't fluff the rice, everything will compact together and gum up into a huge chunk after it becomes lukewarm. 1 minute of fluffing makes a huge difference. Now you have made a pot of perfectly cooked white rice. I told you it was easy. Let me show you the second method, how to cook rice in a microwave. This technique works for long, medium, short grain white rice, and it produces surprisingly fluffy results. Most of the steps are similar as if you were going to cook the rice on the stove. Just rinse the rice and drain it completely. The ratio is the same. For every cup of white rice, you will need 1.5 cups of water. The difference is that you have to use a microwave-safe bowl with a heat-proof but not airtight lid. This allows the steam to escape, otherwise the lid will explode off during cooking. The size of the container should be 4 to 6 times of the rice volume that you are going to cook. I am only cooking 1 cup of rice, so I will microwave it on high heat for 5 minutes. The purpose of that is to bring the water to a boil. For every extra cup of rice, add 1 more minute. 5 minutes later, switch the heat to medium-low and continue to cook it for 12 minutes. For every extra cup of rice, add 2 more minutes. My microwave has 10 levels of power. I am using the level 3 here. Let it rest with the lid on for 5 minutes. Then fluff the rice. You see, it comes out just as good as if you were cooking it on the stove. The benefit of using a microwave is that it turns off by itself, so you don't need to worry about forgetting the time and burning your rice, which I have done it many times in my life. This is so easy. I bet some of you will stop cooking the rice over the stove from now on. Next, let's talk about how to season the rice. What we just made is plain rice, which is the default rice to go with any Chinese dish. Personally, I don't like to season my rice with salt because I don't want the excess sodium to interfere the flavor of the dish that I'm going to serve with. But if you are going to add salt, you should add it before you turn on the heat. Give it a stir and just cook it as usual. Besides salt, you can use adobo, onion salt, or any other spice rub that you have in your kitchen. I like to throw in a chunk of butter, just 1 to 2 tablespoons depending on the rice amount. The butter will melt and distribute naturally when the water heats up. This is my favorite way to season the rice without salting. A little bit grease will prevent the rice grain from sticking to each other, so the rice will come out even fluffier. Also, a slight milky and creamy hint brings up the rice to a different level. I know rice is a Western ingredient. If you want to make it Chinese, you can use scallion oil or sesame oil. I love making scallion oil rice. Whenever there are guests coming, I get tons of compliments. You can color the rice with turmeric or dark soy sauce. I only do that when I need the color for presentation. Before serving, you can mix in some diced herbs, squeezing a drizzle of lime juice, sprinkle some salt or pepper. Of course, there are many other ways to season the rice. If you're interested, you can leave a comment below and we'll talk about it another day. Rice is best to refrigerate or freeze as soon as possible after cooking to avoid producing harmful bacteria. Just simply put the rice in an airtight container. It stays good for 4 days in the fridge or 3 months in the freezer. As I mentioned before, altitude affects the rice to water ratio and the cooking time. Based on the measurement that I gave you before, you will add 2 more tablespoons of water and 2 more minutes of cooking time for every 1,000 feet above sea level. This is the rule of thumb of boiling things at high altitude because the boiling point is lower, so things take longer to cook. Alright, that is all for today. If this video is helpful to you, please hit the like button and share it with your friends and families. That really encourages me to continue to make more delicious recipes. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!